Anyway, I would suggest we just start, right?
All right, we can actually I've been trying to make a course now, but I guess the network is just messing up.
Mhm.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome you today for joining us for the fifth day of 10 days of Microsoft Fabric. Today we are going to be looking at using pipeline in Microsoft Fabric. So essentially, what we have been learning since the beginning is actually a story we have been following from the very beginning, where we started from introduction to Microsoft Fabric. Then on the second day, we were introduced to lake classes, and then on the third day, we did Apache Spark. We did the data lake table, and today we are going to talk about uh, data factory pipeline in Microsoft Fabric. Now, like from the name, we can actually guess what you are going to be doing from here. That means you are manufacturing data from whatever source that you can actually be sitting on. Just like Power Query, that like we know it is an ETL tool. Data Factory also an ETL tool. Before Fabric was announced, there is what we call Azure Data Factory, which is a service inside of Azure. But now it's part of what Microsoft has repackaged for us to call Microsoft Fabric. Just like we talk about ETL where you are working on-prem, we can talk about ELT where you are working in the cloud. And one of the tools that you can use for your ETL is actually Azure Data Factory. But in this case, now it has now been provided on the interface of Microsoft Fabric. The interesting thing is that either you have your ETL or you have your ELT. So, for example, there are some common terms that are associated with Fabric. From what we have read in our documentation today, we talk about setting up data pipeline. And what is a pipeline? Pipeline is just a collection of activities that you can use to actually do your data integration, do your data orchestration. So when we talk about data integration, for now, the tools in the Microsoft BI platform is actually SSIS, and then next to it is SSRS. Why SSIS is SQL Server Integrated Services, and SSRS is SQL Server Reporting Services. You are doing your data integration with SSIS, and then you are doing your reporting with SSRS. So just like SSIS is an on-prem tool, and like I always say, SSIS is just like the tool of the past. But the future, which is cloud, is Azure Data Factory. So your ETL for cloud tool now is Data Factory that has not been provisioned inside of your Fabric tenant. So with Azure Data Factory in tenants, in your Fabric tenants now, that means you can actually do your data integration, you can do your data orchestration, and you can do your data movement from whatever source they are sitting on, be it on the cloud or in the prem. You can connect to multiple sources, just like you go to get data in your Power Query. You can use your data factory also to actually get your data to where they are coming from to where you intend to move them. And while you are moving your data also, you can actually set up different activities within your pipeline. What do I mean by activities? It's an activity that you are copying in data. There could be another activity whereby you set up a data flow activity. There are various types of activity. You can have a data flow activity. You can have a delete activity. You can have a copy activity. And all of this activity can be arranged in a way that will actually transform your data and move them from the source they are to where they are going. You can have a pipeline where you have your delete activity. And then you can actually orchestrate this data movement in a way that when one activity is complete, that is when the next activity should actually begin. Or you say that even if the activity is failing, you can actually continue with the next one. So, like we talked about when we were talking about Apache Spark for data transformation, instead of having a transformation done in your lakehouse level, you can actually do it here. We are doing it at this level. That means you are doing extract, transform, and then load. But when you are already doing your data already into your lakehouse, that means doing extract, load, and then transform. So in this case now, you are doing a copy activity. Then you're also doing uh, Apache Spark activity where you have your pipeline set up, and then you have your copy activity first. And then once that is completed, then you link it up on that interface where you can actually do a linkage from your copy activity to your transformation activity. In this case now, you are doing data factory activity. So you can have your clean data. And in this case now, instead of having to struggle with Power Query that might be slow, this is actually very robust in that it can handle big data. It can handle big data, and then your data will actually be moved into your lake houses in a clean form or in an already transformed form. Just like in Power Query Online, where you can actually define some certain parameters, you can actually define parameters too when it comes to setting up pipeline. So a pipeline is a big one. Multiple activities is what we call a pipeline. You can have one activity in the pipeline, or you can have two activity in the pipeline. It could be more. So it depends on what you are trying to achieve or how complicated or complex your transformation is. And then another thing you can actually do, just like you can do if you are coming from Power BI background, you know that you can actually schedule your refresh in Power BI where you have your data sets published to Power BI service. You can schedule your refresh so that the data set is actually being refreshed with the most recent data. You can actually run all of this activity. You can validate your activity. And then this actually makes your work very easy instead of having to do your transformation at the Power Query Online level. So essentially, it's just a place where you actually produce and manufacture data. So the technical word here is data integration and data orchestration. So just know that there is data integration that is going on, which is the bringing it together from several platforms. And one of the things that was said when Fabric was released is the fact that most chief data officers don't want to be chief integration officer. But with Fabric now, you can actually do all of your orchestration with Data Factory, and then you move them into your lake houses, or even where you are doing data warehouse. So it just depends on the location that you want to move your data into. And not just Fabric alone, you can use Data Factory to even copy your data from whatever source you are copying from to cloud sources, to your SQL database, to your data warehouse. So you can use it to move data from any source to any source that you have actually defined. So I don't know if anybody has any questions. So I'll just leave this session for Faith to actually moderate, and then we can take any question that we have from anybody.
Thank you so much, Francis, for that explanation. Thank you so much for doing justice to that. So, if we have any question regarding today's module, please you can come off mute or just request to speak and then come off mute and then you can speak, or you can use the comment section to ask your questions. So, I see we have Victor, Petty King, Ed, and Rebecca. So, I would like us to react to just react to what I just said. If you even went through today's module, could you please react? Just click on the reaction button and just use any of the reactions. Oopsie. I guess it means none of us here went through the module.
Faith, you were including yourself.
No, I did. I reacted. I reacted. So based on the fact that most of the things that we've been doing, they are inside of data engineering, and I don't have exactly specific questions apart from the one that I asked yesterday, and I just follow the lab and follow the step by step and then get what I want and just move on. So I might not exactly have questions regarding
But did
that
you
part.
understand what you did in the lab?
I follow exactly the prompts, right? I just follow each step of the prompts and then figure them out. They were like yesterday, my codes were giving me error, but I realized that there were some places that I needed to change some things. And after making those
Okay.
changes, yeah, I was able to run them again and they were, they gave me the right thing. But as you said yesterday, you and Ola said, it is good to go over it again and again. It's not enough to just do it once and leave it so that it speaks. Because sometimes, even as I'm like today going through some of the modules, they still look like French and, Greek to me. But I still go over it, read it again. Like when you were talking about the ETL and ELT, I also checked that out there. I used to think that they were the very exact same thing until I went through the module and I saw that they were actually distinct. So I think there's
Yeah.
so much to learn. It's just to continue going through the module again and again. Repetition is key to learning. So I guess we just have to go over the module again and again to understand it better.
I must agree with what you say. Extra is just the key to learning. Just see data factory like your power query. Essentially, it's the same thing, just that you just have to do your interface where you draw various activity. It could be your copy activity, your data flow activity, and you can actually even integrate it together with your power query online, such that you actually ingest your data with your data flow. Just like if you want to do some other transformations, or maybe for example, now there is a one end-to-end tutorial that was actually designed by Microsoft that you're actually going to use your Power Query online together with Data Factory. So in that case, now you are creating a data flow activity. You had already actually do your data cleaning and transformation with Power Query online, and then you just go into your Data Factory, and then you just select the activity to be a data flow activity, and then you must have named your data flow. Then you just pick it and select it. Then whatever other transformation that you want to do to your data, maybe you want to have like an email notification, for example, which was designed in the tutorial. You can set it up that way that, okay, if this data flow is done successfully, then I should be notified. And if it's not running, then what action should be taken? So those are the kind of things that you can actually do. The things that you can actually see what you are doing with data Power Query, but you cannot see it with Data Factory. Well, Data Factory can handle EG data. So it is combining these two capabilities together to give us a very fantastic and a seamless experience on Fabric. So that is essentially what uh, Data Factory is all about. Just to ingest your data, move your data, orchestrate your data into whatever destination that you actually desire. So since we do not have any question, and I think this might just be a convenient place for us to stop, and then tomorrow again we take the next session, and we do the question and answer session again. Thank you, Fitz. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I really
Thank
appreciate it.
you. Thank you so much, Francis. So um before we leave, I just wanted to ask, because before now, I think when I was working with one of the labs when we started, I saw the online Power Query, and that was quite different from the one I know on Power BI desktop, right? So I wanted to also ask, before Microsoft Fabric, do we have anything like Power Query online? Because I have never used it. And again, on Power BI service, does Power BI service have Power Query online the same way we have for Power BI desktop?
Yeah, before Fabric, there's actually Power Query online. But for you to get Power Query online, that means we are creating data flow. The idea of data flow is actually to create a reusable asset such that data set, for example, now let's say you are working in marketing department, and then data sets are using in that place. The way they want to use it for those that are in finance department is actually different. Maybe they want to do some pivoting in finance department, for example, whereas marketing department don't want to do some uh, pivoting. So they can both use data flow, and data flow is reusable. So you do have to actually start from scratch, and then you start doing your data cleaning. So there is concept of promoted data set, certified data set on Power BI service. So it's actually existing, just that it's actually very, very reusable. So you get to create data. When you publish your Power BI report to Power BI service, it's together with your data set that you are publishing. So you can actually connect to that data set, because that data set already been cleaned. Say your Power BI administrator already now certified that data set as actually authentic. Then another person does not have to start doing transformation from scratch. They can just connect to that Power BI data set. So yes, there is Power Query online in Power BI service, just that you have to access through creating a data flow. If you go to your workspace now before Fabric, even now that we have Fabric now, if you create a workspace that is not Fabric enabled, if you go to on your blank workspace, just click on new. Then from that new, you see your data flow. So from that data flow, it's going to open up Power Query online for you that you can actually use to do your data transformation and data cleaning. So you can actually test it out. Go on Power BI service, log in, create a new workspace. Even if it's on Fabric experience, just keep it on Power BI experience, and then click on new, then select the data flow. Now, the difference between the data flow in Power BI service and data flow now is that data flow we are talking about when it comes to Fabric is data flow Gen 2. And that Gen 2 is coming from Azure Synapse Analytics, because there is a data storage I call Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2. So data flow Gen 2 is a Fabric asset as against data flow, which is just a Power BI asset. So if you notice, if you go to your Fabric enabled workspace, you will see data flow. Then you see data flow Gen 2 preview. Data flow Gen 2 preview is data flow of Fabric that is Azure powered. But data flow that does not have Gen 2 right in front of it is data flow that has always been existing in Power BI service, just to create reusable assets.
Wow. Thank you, Francis. That was quite a lot. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for explaining that. I think there's so much to learn.
Yeah, the interesting thing is that I think 1 week before Fabric was announced, I realized that a lot of people actually ignore the core of Power BI service, because there is actually a lot of things going on in Power BI service that I find it interesting that people are not actually aware. So, like this data flow now, and then Power Query Online is actually, the interface is almost the same thing with what you have in Power Query desktop, and even more robust, because you can even see the concept of query folding there. There are icons to show your query folding. I'm sure that by the time you are working in Lake House and then you are working with data flow Gen 2, you will see that on your applied steps, they have certain icons, some in green, some in red, some in black. The green one means, okay, there is query folding. The red one means that, okay, your query folding is actually breaking. What do I mean by query folding? Query folding means any Power BI query transformation that you have done that is translatable to an SQL code. For example, now if you are doing your merge column in Power Query, essentially that is a join query in SQL. So when you are working with big data, you want to ensure that all the transformation that you are doing is actually foldable. So if they are foldable, that means that, oh, it's as good as you are querying your data set from the source, and then the transformation is not actually uh, difficult for the machine to process. So some of these concepts is actually very interesting, and they are actually intertwined together. It just makes the Apple experience seamless, and then the more you use it, the more things you understand.
Yeah, yeah, I get that. So somebody is asking, meaning he said Victor is asking, meaning Gen 2 is kind of more advanced than data flow.
Yes, yes. Power BI data flow is just a Power BI asset. Power BI data flow Gen 2 is a Fabric asset. Now, there is what we call ADLS. That's Azure Data Lake Storage, which is storage in Azure services. So there is data flow as a Power BI asset, and then there is also data flow Gen 2 as a Synapse asset. I think Ola is here now. Let me try and make him calls and have something to say to us. Ola, welcome.
Okay. I don't know if you can hear us. Hola, good evening.
I'm sending in both. I'm trying to make him co-host or a speaker. None is actually doing it. I guess that's the network.
Yeah, I guess it's network issue.
Or is there any other question before we actually bring it to an end?
Hi, Victor. If you can hear me, please could you react if we've answered your question? And if any other person has questions, you can also post it on the comments. And also, you don't have to limit your questions to only when we are in a space like this. For example, you are running a code and you run into an error and you try it out again, it's not working. You can please post the screenshots on any of the Twitter spaces and then tag any of the hosts and they will come answer your questions. Thank you so much. I think we have 3 minutes to go. I don't know if Ola can hear us or if we would like to speak, but I think that should be all for now. Hi, Francis.
Yeah, Faith, I can hear you. I was just trying to make Ola a speaker or a co-host, but I think it's the network that is not making him to see it or something. In the absence of question, I think you can call it a day. And if you have any question regarding previous modules that we created, from your introduction to your lake house, to your data lake house, to your Apache Spark, yeah, please feel free to ask us any question from the previous modules and any place that you think you are confused.
Thank you so much, Francis. Thank you, everyone. And we hope to see you tomorrow, same time by 9 p.m. Please tune in. And like we said, if you have any questions, you can just make a tweet about it and tag us, or you can just ask the questions under any of the tweets that we are making about the module in the Microsoft Fabric. Thank you so much for joining. And thank you so much, Francis, for the session tonight. Have a good night.
Yeah, good night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.